Hi, my name is PJ, co-founder of Ixim, where we make fresh, handmade tortillas. Now, a lot of people ask me, what can I do with fresh tortillas? So I want to start a video series to show people all the different types of things you can do with tortillas. There are thousands of recipes out there. And today, we're going to start with a recipe called Enchiladas Rojas. Now, what that means in English is enchiladas in red sauce. So, to start, you're going to need a few ingredients. So the ingredients are 1 dozen fresh corn tortillas, half of a yellow onion, 3 cloves of garlic, 4 guajillo chilies and 2 pasilla chilies, 1 pound of fresh tomatoes, half a cup of sour cream, and half a cup of feta cheese, 2 fresh chicken breasts, about a cup of oil for frying, and salt and pepper that we'll use to flavor it a little later on. We're also going to need a few utensils. A knife and cutting board, a large plate with some paper towel here. We're going to need a blender, 2 pots, a frying pan, tongs, and a wooden spoon for mixing. So the first step in this recipe is to bring a medium-sized pot of water to boil. Then we're going to put our chicken breasts into the pot of boiling water. Just like that there. You want to keep it at about a medium boil. While that's happening, so you want to peel 1 clove of garlic and take your onion and cut that in half. So a quarter of an onion here. Remove the peels. And we're going to take the garlic and chop that in half. And then we're just going to roughly chop up the other onion there. This is just to flavor the water, to get that garlic and onion flavor into the chicken. So then we're going to take this and we're going to put it into our pot of chicken here. There we go. So I'll let that boil for about 15 to 20 minutes until the chicken is fully cooked. Meanwhile, we'll begin to prepare our red sauce. We're going to bring another pot of water to boil for the tomatoes and for the chilies. We've got to soften those up before we put them into our sauce. So I'm going to go ahead and just put that water there on the burner. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and prepare the rest of the ingredients for the sauce. So, we've got our tomatoes. We want to remove the stem from those. And we've got our chilies. I'm going to remove all the stems from those as well. Now you can take the seeds out of these if you like to, but I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so we got the stems removed. And now we just wait for that water to boil, and once it's ready, we're going to put this into the water. Okay, now my water is boiling, so I want to turn the heat down a bit, up to medium there. And we're going to get our tomatoes and our chilies into the boiling water. There we go. So we're going to let that boil for about 5 minutes, just long enough to soften up the dried chilies and get the tomatoes a bit softer as well. So put a lid back on that. Okay, now our tomatoes and our chilies are just about ready. So what I'm going to do is grab the remaining part of the onion we have here, and I'm going to put about half of that into the blender along with the remaining 2 cloves of garlic. So just don't want to. Now these, one way you can get the peel off the garlic easily is you put the flat side of the knife on it and push down. Be careful you don't cut yourself. The peels come right off there. It's a nice little trick to that there. Okay, so now we've got our garlic peeled here. We'll take about half of this onion, set the rest aside. The rest we'll use right at the end there. So put those things in the blender. Just like that. then we're going to take our tomatoes and our chilies and put those in the blender as well. Grab my tongs here because they're hot. I don't want to handle them with just my hands. Ooh, spilt a bit there. Careful when you're transferring it. Spill any juice all over the place. Okay, so those are all in the blender. Now we use just a little bit of the water here, just to make the sauce a little bit thinner, so you can use your spoon for that or a measuring cup if you like. So we'll put about a quarter cup or so of water, hot water in there. Now you don't need the rest of the water, so you can dump that right out. And put the pot back on the stove. Put the lid on here. Now, whenever you blend something that's hot, you got to worry about the steam escaping, and that can burn your hand. So I'm going to put a cloth over the top of here. Just hit the pulse button a few times. All right, let's take a look and see where that's at there. Okay, so it doesn't take long, about 10 or 15 seconds on the high setting of your blender. Put the contents of that back into the pot. Splashing up a bit here. Careful, the sauce likes to splash. Missed a bit. And then we're going to let that simmer for another 5 minutes or so. Okay, now that we've got our chicken boiling and our sauce just simmering away there, I'm going to heat up a pan with some oil. Now I've turned it up there to about medium to medium high heat. And we want about a cup of oil in the pan. We're going to fry those tortillas a little bit, just to give them more flavor and a bit of crisp. Now, if you want to omit this step, if you want a lower fat version, you could always use the tortillas fresh. Now, it won't taste quite the same as the traditional way, so I'm making it a bit more traditional here. That's about a cup of oil there. You just want to wait a few minutes for that oil to heat up, and then we'll start frying our tortillas. Okay, so we've warmed our oil up here. You can hear it bubbling away there. I had a little bit of water in the pan, so make sure you get all the water out of your pan before you put the oil in, otherwise it ends up doing that. So now I've got my dozen tortillas here, and I'm going to start frying them. Open up the package there. Depending on the size of your pan, you can usually fit about 2 or 3 at a time. Put those directly into the oil like that. Put about 3 in this one here. Now it doesn't take very long, maybe 20 or 30 seconds. Fry these up here. You want to fry them so that they're not completely crispy yet, but just slightly crispy, but still a bit pliable. A few seconds on each side like that. Flip those over. Okay, so just about there. Okay, so you see there how they're a little bit pliable but still crispy too at the same time. So those 3 are done. So I'm going to take those and put them onto my paper towel. And I'm just going to continue frying the rest of the dozen here, 3 at a time. Doesn't take very long. Okay, so the last 3 are going in now. So again, 20 seconds total time, about 10 seconds on each side. And those are done. Now just let the oil drain off, putting them onto the plate with the paper there, the paper towel. Now we're done with that oil. Okay, so our chicken's almost done cooking here, but I'm just going to use the time I have while I'm waiting for it to cook to chop up the last of the onion here. We're going to put this fresh on at the end. So you want to dice it up to nice small little pieces here. And you just set those aside until we're almost done. I'll put those into this container right out here. Okay. So we're done with that. So now we want to start preparing the chicken. So you want to take a look at that chicken, make sure it's ready. So let's grab your tongs and your knife here, just kind of cut into it there, and make sure it's not pink on the inside. Grab our plate here. Put that chicken on it. And we want to let this cool down for a couple minutes here because we're going to start tearing it apart. If you've ever made pulled pork, it's the same process with the boiled chicken. We're going to pull it into little bits here. Pulled chicken, I guess you'd call it. So I'll wait for that to cool down and then we'll start pulling it apart. So while that chicken is cooling down, I'm just going to finish making my sauce here. The sauce has been on for about 5 or 10 minutes here. You can always cook it a little longer. It's a tomato sauce, so it's very forgiving. Put some salt and some pepper in it. Now if you have a salt-restricted diet, you can always use potassium, which is goes by the brand name of No Salt, and there's a few other brands there, but I'm doing the traditional way, so we're going to use salt. And some pepper. And I like it peppery myself. You can add as much or as little pepper as you like. So I'm adding about a teaspoon worth of pepper because I really like pepper. There we go. Give that a stir. Good. Okay, so now that our chicken has cooled down a little bit, we want to start pulling it apart. You can use your fingers. You can use a fork as well, but the traditional way is to tear it apart into little bits with your fingers. So you want to feel where the fiber is in the muscle fibers of the chicken breast and tear along them. Bits here, so do some bigger ones. Just break it up into little pieces. Okay, so I finished peeling apart my chicken. Looks like this right here, all nicely peeled apart there. And I'm going to start arranging the enchiladas. So the first thing we do is we grab a fried tortilla and we dip that into the sauce. Just helps soften it up a little bit. We get that on the plate, and then we get a bit of chicken, put that inside there. You can put as much or as little as you want. We fold it in half like a half-shelled taco. Again with another one here. If you found that you've over fried your tortillas and they're too stiff to work with, you can always just serve it face up like this without folding it over. You just put the chicken on there like that, and you can serve it just like that. But I'm going to fold them all over because that's the traditional way to do it. And the last one there. Bit of chicken in there. And fold it over. I made a bit of a mess of the plate, but you can always do this on one plate and transfer it to another if you want to present it a little more pretty. Okay, then we get a little bit more sauce for the top here. Just like that. And then we're going to put our onion. If you really like onion, you can put a lot of it. I'll just put a little bit of it for now. A little bit of our cheese here. I really like cheese, so I'm going to put a lot on there. And then your sour cream. In Mexico they use a stuff called crema, which is it's just thick cream that hasn't been soured. And if you can find that, and use that instead, but sour cream tastes really good too, so there we go. So that is an enchilada roja.